All right, so let's dive into it today, and that is talking about Dogecoin and maybe where it's going. As you guys have been following the channel, we kind of have a love affair with Doge. We're going to dive into today. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to Tech Path. Dogecoin has been on the move, much like most of the crypto market has been. There are some unique variances, though, with Doge that are showing up in some of our data, along with some other analyst data, that is kind of pointing to the cryptocurrency as being in a position to where it could potentially kind of hang with the big boys, the titans out there in Bitcoin and Ethereum. I want to jump to a couple of stories, and then we'll get into kind of where our chart is moving. This was over by Forbes, just crypto price prediction. Doge pump and dump cycle could send the meme coin soaring by end of 2021. They basically kind of talk about how the cycle of meme coin and the network effect really plays in, and how this potentially could be in a very unique cycle based on Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I think a lot of analysts are kind of jumping to this very scenario, is that there's a lot of uniqueness that kind of bring in Doge as a meme coin, and also because of the acceptance, because it still is a top 10 market cap and still continues to outperform many of the stellar, I'll call them blue chips, within the DeFi space. That is still pretty surprising. I want to jump to this story by Motley Fool. Feel like it should be Fuel today. So this is kind of talking about why and what has happened. This, of course, is Monday morning when we recorded this. Cryptocurrency prices roaring again. Ethereum was up 3. Midnight, Bitcoin had been up again 4.4, and then Dogecoin doing best of all at 5.9%. This was according to that. They think, hey, this is, you got DC to thank for this, and kind of this whole evolution of the legislation and what is happening, whether it's by awareness or people saying, okay, wait a minute, there's a lot going on in terms of the legislative side of it. There was some scenarios within the legislative write-up originally that really would affect crypto in a big way. That has been walked back a little bit by Senators Democrat Ron Wyden of Oregon and Republican Pat Toomey, who basically came in to help adjust the copy and the language of the bill and kind of move it back into a position that would kind of loosen up those scenarios and not start diving into the requirements, the regulation requirements, all the way down to literally the minor. Which I think now a lot of people have kind of moved in that. But something that Politico said here, reports today, the real importance of what almost happened in the Senate last week isn't that cryptocurrency lobby didn't quite win its battle over the legislature. It's that it was able to provoke an intense infrastructure bill brawl between Bitcoin advocates. And I think that's the scenario here. Even Jack, of course, jumps in on this right here to Ron Wyden, Loomis, Toomey, Warner, Portman, Sinema, which is Arizona, and Ted Cruz, respectively, the staff and everyone who worked on the infrastructure bill, crypto tax reporting. This was essentially the thing. So I think what has happened across crypto in general, even though there was quite a bit of lead up to this, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Doge, and many of the others, XRP, and all of the, I would say, blue chip, not that I'm calling Doge and a blue chip, but when you look at the amount of people that are involved in these and the frenzy of this marketplace in terms of the traders and also just their reach into Congress. And I think that's going to be the interesting thing to watch in the coming months, especially around cryptocurrency in general. I just talked to Steve about, I should say Steve Ehrlich, who is the CEO of Voyager, about this, is that there is a whole new era of influencers that are in the crypto space that are quite different than that of most pop culture crypto or pop culture influencers. And the reason I say that is these are educated in most cases, very influential people, a lot of people that are in business, several people that have huge money ties. And the interesting thing is I think a lot of this, as we see most of the legislation start to roll out in the coming months and years, that a lot of this I think is going to roll over. And I think Doge, along with some of the other cryptocurrencies, are really going to benefit from this. And if you look kind of back to this point, Lobby Army may have lost the battle on Senate Sunday night, but Politico points out even the infrastructure bill is passed by the Senate. It must survive a House vote, probably reconciliation between the two bodies two or more chances to get the broker definition tightened up. So this is going to pretty much clean it up. The point is that all these other senators, congressmen, they've identified the problem. They're going to be able, I believe, we're going to see this fixed, and it's going to definitely be in there. But the whole thing is that the scenario is there's a lot of movement from the crypto community into the political community, and I think this is going to open up a whole new era of how lawmakers and congressmen and just in general, if you think of politicians, are going to start campaigning around this new era of voter/crypto investor. And I think that is, they're much younger on average. They're much more technically able. They're much more influential. They have full command of social media. There's so many things that really apply to what's happening in the crypto community. And I think that's one of the things that is driving kind of future. But I want to jump over to Trade the Chain and kind of where this might be going for Dogecoin. So I've jumped to the 7-day chart here just to kind of zoom in on this a little bit. Dogecoin trading at 25.5 right now. You can kind of see the action right here. While the price was climbing, right here we did see the sentiment bubble kind of fall or bump with the price, which took it up to almost 26 cents, a little over 26 cents. Prices since come down just a hair to 23 and then back up to around 26 cents again, while we're seeing negative sentiment right now playing out in Dogecoin. Now, here's the question is, will the negative sentiment hold, and or will we see that kind of that Metcalfe's law effect, which is the node effect of around meme coins? And I see this more and more happening in our own data, because remember, we track across all, well, not all, but most of the primary and major social media platforms. And we also look at not only the sentiment data, which is, speech IQ type driven material, but it also looks at the amplification. And that's basically measuring the weighted value of someone talking about a particular investment or a project, in this particular case, Dogecoin. And I want to kind of jump to our Dogecoin prediction that we gave a little while back ago, where we had kind of picked it right here. Let me zoom in on that just a little bit, and we'll go to Trade the Chain. I'll kind of just jump here. So this was back on a sentiment layer that we ran on the date of July 26th through right there, which was July 27th. So this 24-hour cycle where we saw this downtrend, we picked up the amplification, and of course sentiment was running at 53.02, which was still decent for a coin or any project. Anything over a 50 is good. Amplification though was light, and that's why we saw kind of this sideways chop that we had predicted, and sure enough, that's what happened with Doge. So that was kind of the scenario, was should you be buying? In that scenario, our situation was that this might be a buying opportunity. In fact, it was, which was running out past our what our amplification measurement was done when we actually measured this back in July. And of course, this moved out to a great accumulation period, and then this is when we see the spike. We have since pulled another sentiment bubble, and this, of course, is running on August 7th, and it runs through August 9th. This one ran sentiment at 59.18, so it's much in line with what you see over here, right here with Trade the Chain. So fully in place. The difference is the amplification went from a 41 to a 62. And let me kind of get my marker tool here so you guys can kind of see where we're going here. The scenario, I think, when you see an amp that's ranging in a 60 plus, this gets very interesting. And when you get a little tighter on our look, our amplification zone is right here. So we do see a potential fall off right here around August 12th. This is where we could see a little bit of a bottom that could come out. So could Doge be going sideways from here for a little bit, and then a potential upswing to around 34 cents as our high? So that's kind of where we're looking at Dogecoin right now in terms of its performance. Again, there's two things that I want you to remember when you look at Dogecoin. In general, Ethereum is getting much more related to Dogecoin, meaning we're tracking a lot of similarities with both Ethereum and Dogecoin in terms of sentiment and also audience makeup, which starts to kind of create, birds of a feather type scenarios. And that is something that is very important, because if Ethereum and Bitcoin start to see any kind of market correction, right now, as of recording, we're seeing a pretty impressive move by both Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I'll get into why that might be happening. But if there is any kind of market correction, then that does kind of open up back here to our chart, where this little bottom section right here, it worries me just a little bit, and that's this section right here on trading view that I'm showing right now. Let me jump to that chart. Here we go. So this little section right here is what I'm most concerned about right now. This is showing up in the amplification. We don't normally see these little hooks like this in our amplification. So this is one of two things. One, it is either we're seeing a little bit of Dogecoin manipulation and amplification is not registering against that, meaning it's looking at how someone is, highly vested, because you look at the number of social media mentions, how passionate they are. You can score sentiment on an individual, and then you can pile those together based on their influence, and that gives you amplification. Those kind of things usually show up when there's a light, meaning they've got some activity in the volume of data that isn't as solid. And that's usually when you see one of those hooks down. That is what's concerning me a little bit right there with Dogecoin. So all that being said, the cool thing is when you look at where all of this is going, you can kind of see this on Market Realist, just quickly where they're going with it. And there's been many out there. There's also a piece on Business Insider of a few analysts that have really started to look at Dogecoin moving to the dollar mark, meaning that would be pretty insane, of seeing that kind of movement by the end of the year, 2021. So this is kind of where a lot of people are pointing to. There's my question here, guys, of course, if for all the Doge lovers out there, is that when you see these kinds of, I won't call them manipulations, but there's definitely some action in the market right now, especially on Dogecoin, that is interesting to me. One, in the sense that it's not the typical action that you usually measure in amplification, which, as I said, causes those downward hooks. Just to jump back to that, in case you missed it there, but causes those downward hooks right here. This is something that normally does not show up in an amp. Like, this is a normal kind of thing. You'll see a lull that comes in an amplification layer, and it holds right in it. Now, we're not always dead on these, but we've been pretty close on a lot of our predictions here recently by utilizing sentiment and amplification layers to kind of look where something's going. The longest that you can kind of go out with before the data gets a little mushy is about a week. And that's great. I mean, still, a week out, if you can start to hit those, as long as there's no major influence factors that jump into the fray, and that's where you get into FUD, regulatory issues, something happening on a hack, somebody doing something crazy that would really kind of create that. That always will affect any kind of market position. Remember though, these are market movers. We pulled together this data along with some stories. We also put together kind of just an analysis as you can see. The main thing here is you need to do your own research. You need to get out there and really dive into this. If you're already in Doge, the good thing is I already trust that you've done your research and you're already into this. So it's not investment advice, but it is investment opinion, and we kind of go in that direction. If you're listening over on the podcast, make sure and tune in over there, whether it's on Spotify. We've had quite a few listeners on Spotify, so hit the like button over there or the follow button on Spotify. That'll help a lot. Additionally, especially on exploring new episodes, because that's a great way for you to find things on Spotify. And we're winning a lot of search campaigns within Spotify as well. If you want to see these charts that we just mentioned, you got to jump over to the YouTube channel. You got to come over there, click the links right there within the description. You can actually land on our YouTube channel. If you're here on the show on YouTube, make sure and subscribe. Share this with somebody else you know. This is hopefully the kind of tools and information that you guys are looking for on tech, crypto, and kind of this innovation around all things that are really moving in the technology space. If you want to hit me up direct, just shoot me up on Twitter, @PaulBaron. I'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.